week one. Excitement, and I mean some disappointments here, but welcome back to another episode of the Walk on Redshirts. If you're not doing so already, make sure to follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, anywhere that you are getting your social media. I actually posted on Threads the other day because, sometimes Threads makes a comeback. Posted on that, so if you are on Threads too. But first off, if you didn't check out how do we pronounce thermometer? Thermometer. I mean, we're doing a wellness check on our friend William here. Rough first week one. Everybody's excited. You could be a Florida State fan, though.
Could be a Florida State fan.
You could have DJU.
I could. I feel like I've been there before, so glad I don't. But wow, that sucked, Jake. That was a nice kick in the nuts, if we're being frank. But the sun rose the next day, and I was still miserable. I wanted to drown myself in sewer water, but I didn't do it.
Did you contemplate saying if Clemson won that you would eat dog poop?
I did not. Nope. Wasn't going to do that. Not that guy. What's that? Knowles fan 312. Bold strategy, Cotton. I got a couple.
I thought that he returned, but it was not the same account. It was 312 Knoll. Let's put it out there. 312 Knowles pretended to be the person. So the person is still missing. They're apparently not eating dog poop. If Clemson loses to App State, will you sit in a Waffle House for 24 hours?
Is that supposed to be a punishment?
I mean, it's 24 hours. That's
absolutely. I would sit in a Waffle House for 24 hours. I mean, yeah, you know what?
How do I remember this?
I would sit in a Waffle House for 24 hours minus the point differential.
Okay. You heard it here first. If Clemson loses to App State, William will sit in a Waffle House for however many is the point differential. So if they lose by 30, he's going to be there for a day.
Yep. I was.
They might kick you out if you're sleeping.
Oh, I won't sleep. You don't sleep in a Waffle House. You eat.
If you sleep in Waffle House, you don't know what's going to happen to you, especially if it's like that 3 o'clock in the morning. You might miss out on the most entertaining part of the day.
Waffle House? No. I won't miss out.
3 a.m. That's the most entertaining part. Yeah.
That's lunchtime for Waffle House. Waffle House is the closest to Garden of Eden that we'll ever get to on planet Earth. Waffle House is beautiful. Waffle House is always there for you. It's like the sweet nectar of the gods. But you don't ask what the ingredients are. Adam and Eve, they wanted to get into that tree of knowledge and bite the apple. No. I don't go back behind the chef and check out the ingredients. I don't need to know that. That's the ingredients of knowledge. Waffle House is beautiful. We didn't think we were going to talk Waffle House this early in this show. Maybe this early in the year. But I wanted to go
like Temple Talk. You never know when Waffle House is going to appear.
It would have been nice to be at Waffle House rather than watching that game. At least the second half. I was pleased with the defense in the first half. In all seriousness, it looked like Georgia tried to run downhill on Clemson, and Clemson did a really good job of containing that and not allowing them to have their way. And Carson Beck missed a couple of throws in the first half that maybe they could have scored a touchdown here or there, where it might have been a bigger point differential. The kicker, I'm forgetting his name, Woodridge, I think his name is, 55-yarder. That was insane. Then you get to the second half, and Georgia made adjustments. And I think they found out, hey, let's go east and west. Let's outrun them to the edge. Let's use our highly touted star running back Nate Frazier, the true freshman. Jake, they got another one there. Nate Frazier is going to be a freaking stud. That's their next Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. Like that's the dude. I was very impressed with him. I was very impressed with Georgia's defense. Obviously, everyone knew they were going to be good, but they were as advertised. But I don't think, it's never as good as it seems, never as bad as it seems. And, after taking a couple of days and just recapping this Clemson game and looking at some content, some non-biased content, trying to not look at Clemson stuff, I think Clemson fans hate Clemson more than opposing fans do. But Clemson wasn't that far out of it. Now, we lost by 31, so they were very far out of it. But in terms of how everybody's thinking right now, it wasn't that big of a gap. We talked about depth before the show started, Jake. I think that's the biggest gap. Dabo, we got to get some sort of depth using the transfer portal, and I don't know how to do that because we had a few options coming out of the transfer portal last year and some offensive line and some other depth pieces. But for some reason, the word got out that they wanted starting job promise. They wanted X amount of money. And I just don't see Dabo ever changing on that, which could be frustrating for a lot of people. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But to go back to the second half, or actually the entire game, you go back to the first play of the game, Jake. Phil Maffa's wide open on a rollout pass. It's a 5-yard dump off. He goes for 30 yards if he catches it. Instead, Cade beans him in the calf, just throws it behind him and down. So you make that throw. The game starts off with a lot more momentum. Jake Brennan still turns around, drops a 10-yard pass. We start driving later on in the first half. Antonio Williams has an amazing catch. We get in a third and long situation. Antonio Williams makes another great catch and a great move to get the first down. But our third-year receiver, Adam Randall, is lined up incorrectly. So we have a procedural penalty. His second, he had 2 in that game. So it's just bonehead mistakes. So I don't think you remove the mistakes. We don't beat Georgia, but it's not a 31-point game. I think it's a 14-point game. I think maybe Vegas got it right. So 10-point game, 14-point game. Clemson's not dead by any means. I can truly see Clemson going 11-1 now.
Yeah, luckily for Clemson fans, one loss doesn't kill your season. Even last year, you could lose to Georgia, and you're still 100% in it. You're losing to the best team in the country. You're 1,000% still in it. This year, you have at least still another game buffer, if not a 2-game buffer, because of how the conference works and how the rankings will work. A loss to Georgia isn't going to look bad at the end of the year. We can almost guarantee Georgia is in the playoff. Just what seed are they? Right. Are they the 1 seed? Are they the 5? Are they the 2? Are they the 6? They're probably one of those 4, if we're being honest.
I think they're not the top 4.
If they're not winning the conference, they're one of the first 2 seeds hosting a game. I think we can just about guarantee that. You kind of hit the nail on the head there. To me, it's the consistency. I didn't get to watch as much of this game because, of course, the bar I was at somehow didn't have ABC, so I was watching on my phone. So I watched more of the second half.
If you're a sports bar and you don't have ABC,
they didn't have ABC or CBS. It's still a soft subject with me.
Tarred and feathered. But you should be tarred and feathered.
Everything that I saw, everything that I was watching, consistency was a big thing there. As a third-year player, you shouldn't be having procedural penalties about lining up wrong. That is just an absolute bonehead play. And it's not like it's your first time starting either. Randall played last year. He knows what he needs to do. The first half, they held their own. They played strong defense. Georgia went 7 plays and a punt, 3 plays and a punt, 12 plays and a field goal, 5 plays and a field goal, 5 plays and a punt. Like, it's not like they were just gashing Clemson's defense in the first half.
Right.
The second half, though, like you said, was a different story. Their drives were 6 plays, 75 yards, 8 plays, 75 yards, 5 plays, 54 yards, 5 plays, 75 yards. All of their scoring drives at that point were 5, 5, 6, and 8. Those are chunk plays.
Yep.
And they're going 75, 66, 54, 78. Those are absolute chunk plays. You're averaging basically more than a first down every single play. They did go 3 plays and -1 yard in there as well. So I want to mention that. And then they had the end of the game, which I don't count either because that's just kneeling the ball out.
Right.
But the second half, they just turned into the monster that they are. And when Georgia is rolling like that, like their wide receivers, as of right now, they don't have like the even Lad. I mean, they might have a Lad McConkey, but they don't have a George Pickens on this.
Yeah.
They don't have an absolute game breaker. They have Carson Beck, who's another year older. He goes 23 of 33 for 278, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Also runs for 19 yards.
And yes, and that was a huge run. To go back, 2 things I want to add. Carson Beck also left a lot on the table. There's a couple of throws he missed, and it's like, man, like he missed a touchdown. He missed 2 touchdown throws. And he makes those throws. It's a much different game. But I thought he played excellent. And I want to also let everybody know this is the difference between elite and great. Clemson could still very well be a great team. Georgia is elite. The elite teams put teams away, and they take advantage of these opportunities. They don't miss too many opportunities. They missed 2. I talked about 2. I can name 5 right off the top of my head for Clemson right now. But to be optimistic, put my Clemson hat back on. I have a Jesus football shirt on for a reason. Clemson football needs a little bit of Jesus right now, the NIL, the Lord's NIL. And the 3 games that you had circled outside of Georgia before the season started were Florida State, NC State, and Virginia Tech. Now, Florida State, I think we understand who they are, and we'll talk about that in a second. NC State, all right, it's the first game. Who knows? But you're playing Western Carolina and you struggled. You snuck out with a victory. It doesn't look like that on the scoreboard. It looks like Grayson McCall had a great game. He played terribly. If you watch that game in its entirety, he was not accurate with the football. Did not make great decisions, and they just struggled. They kept turning the ball over. That was the running back, and I'm forgetting his name. And then Virginia Tech just looked awful. Vanderbilt even tried to hand them the game with poor clock management at the end of the game. But Virginia Tech, all the hype I had for Virginia Tech coming into the season is gone.
Yeah, I'm selling my stock on Virginia Tech. I bought it way too high, and I'm selling it very low.
Yeah, Diego Pavia just took them to the woodshed. And we thought he would be good, Jake. I mean, it's not like we thought Diego Pavia
we did say Diego Pavia, and I feel bad on our SEC preview. We didn't even give Vanderbilt the time of day, but they came out firing. Virginia Tech tried to fight back. They got back and made it go to overtime. But Vanderbilt, I mean, that's not going to be an easy team for anybody to beat this year.
No.
So, I mean, this is also proof of why you need to give coaches multiple years. You can't just sell so quick because Clark Leah is I believe in his 3rd year, maybe 4th year. I think it's his 3rd year there at Vanderbilt. And you've got to get time to build a culture. You've got to get time to change the system, change how the program is viewed. And Diego Pavia, I mean, we saw what he did at New Mexico State last year. Want to talk about USC and LSU, a game where everybody that was in the South did not think USC had a chance.
Whoa. Not everybody, Jake. Not everybody.
No. We both thought that USC was going to win. I actually predicted USC would win by 2 touchdowns and they won by 7. So
I thought they would win by at least 10. And I am in the South, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but the one thing that I was most impressed about USC, besides them winning the game outright, they looked physical on defense, Jake. I mean, they were laying the wood out there all 4 quarters. I was very, very impressed with the intensity that team played with.
Yeah. They still give up 421 yards, but they played a really solid LSU team. It's a very talented team, but they only allowed LSU to convert 5 of 13 on 3rd down. They stopped them on a 4th down play. They had an interception. This was not an Alex Grinch defense. This was a much stronger defense. And USC was 23rd in the country when they came in. USC, if they play like this, looks like a team that can contend for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
They play Penn State. I believe they get Penn State in the Coliseum either later this month or sometime in October, maybe.
I feel like we've seen that before.
We have Rose Bowl. We saw it. But, one thing you talked about that was going to be a difference maker. Now, Garrett Nussmeier played very well. He only threw 9 incompletions, 1 interception, 308 yards, efficient with the ball. But the one thing we talked about was the running ability that you were going to miss with Jaden Daniels. This team, they ran it really pretty well. John Emery ran for 61 yards on 10 carries. But
he looked great. When they switched to him, he looked great.
But Jaden Daniels was absolutely electric when he had the ball in his hand, was running the ball. That was more – he ran the ball more like a Lamar Jackson of just being able to find a hole and go.
I think people forget he was an 1,000-yard rusher last year. This isn't some guy who ran for – it's not Carson Beck running for a 19-yard play. It's like, ooh, that was awesome. Like, great run. No, this dude, that was part of the offense.
Exactly.
He ran for 1,000 yards, people. That's a running back.
Exactly.
An elite running back.
And I thought Miller Moss played fantastic.
I thought he did too.
You know, he showed ice in his veins coming down that stretch. I mean, you go down and you go 8 plays, 75 yards with less than 2 minutes left. He never looked like he was flustered. I was kind of concerned about the clock management at one point because they were definitely playing for the field goal. And I understand you only need a field goal there. But there was a part where they needed to play with a little bit more pep, but then they ended up scoring anyways. You know, 2nd and 1 at their own 44. There was 40 seconds still. They was down for 40 seconds. They used a minute to go a total of 15 yards or 20 yards. Like, I'd like to see a little bit more movement, because last thing you want to do is run out of time because you did too many short dump off passes. You didn't play with enough urgency. Obviously, USC wins. Miller Moss, leads them down the field. Incredible game. And
Hudson, the wide receiver, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring him up. What's his first name?
Kyron
Hudson. Oh my God. Two of the best catches we might see all year. The first one on the sideline, the one-handed catch where he flips around and grabs it and reels it in. And then the second one when he gets targeted and just absolutely mollywop on the sideline. Like, number one, great ballsy throw from Miller Moss. I mean, he put it the only place where he put it in the tightest of windows for Kyron Hudson to get that. And then Kyron, like I said, got decked, catches the ball, first down, and that changes the game. That essentially won the game for him. So, I mean, hats off to Kyron Hudson. Hats off to Branch. He looked awesome. I mean, he looked more explosive than he did last year, and I didn't think that was going to be possible. I mean, that dude is slippery. And I was also impressed with the running game from USC. What's the guy's name? Woody. He came from Mississippi State.
Name.
The running back for USC looked very good. Woody Marks. That last touchdown run he had to seal it, great throw, great run. But the thing I took out of this game the most was Brian freaking Kelley.
I was going to say, what was your biggest takeaway?
Brian Kelley. So I'm not a Brian Kelley fan. I didn't like him at Notre Dame, and I don't like him now. And the reason I don't like him, he can recruit. He can make your program better. He will never consistently win the big one. He will never get you through the playoffs, and he will never be an elite coach for one reason and one reason only. You cannot throw your freaking players under the bus after week 1 in the freaking college football season, especially when he's a first-time starter. You have a quarterback who went to Nevada. You go to an away game, essentially, and he has an excellent game. Garrett Nussmeier played great. I didn't think he was going to play that well, hand up. But then you go in the press conference afterwards and you say that he got outplayed. You don't say that. You might say it in the locker room. You might say it in the film room, to encourage him, or excuse me, to make him compete, to kind of light a fire on him. But you sure as hell don't say that to the media. You just threw this dude under the bus, and he wants to complain about the culture of his team. Jake, who drives the culture for teams? It's your freaking head coach. And if it's not, then what the hell are you doing? So I don't want to see you throwing a tantrum on the freaking podium, slamming your fists on the ground and complaining that 19 to 23-year-olds don't have a good culture. That's your freaking problem, and you need to figure it out. Like, don't sit there and blame those guys. They played a hell of a game. That pissed me off. It really did.
Absolutely. And one fun fact about this is Brian Kelley has now lost every season opener at LSU in his 3rd season. He has never started the season with a winning record. He lost to Florida State both times.
Yep.
And now, obviously, he lost to USC.
He better do it 2 more years, because we got him the next 2 years.
I was going to ask who they have after this.
Yeah.
Now, I saw a hot take, and I think this is incredibly hot, that who is a surprising coach that gets fired this year? And somebody said Brian Kelley. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think he can go 7-5. His job's fine. I don't think there's enough losses on the schedule. I think that, we talked about Vanderbilt. They're more talented than Vanderbilt. Florida's terrible. Arkansas, Sam Pittman's going to be on the hot seat. South Alabama, they'll probably beat. They get UCLA, who did not look good this past week. They also get Nichols, and they get South Carolina. Like, They also have A&M, Alabama, and Oklahoma on here. Ole Miss. I think at minimum they're a 7-5 team. I can't imagine they go any bit worse than that. If they go worse than that, by all means, the wheels have fallen off. But it's not like they played terrible. They played good. USC just looks like they've changed the program a little bit. Now, these are week 1 hot takes that we're overreacting to week 1. We come back here in 4 weeks and USC's got 2 losses and LSU is 4-1 and it's completely changed. But looking back at this right now, LSU, you got a chance to work on it. You got a couple weeks. You're not out of it. Your next big game isn't really till October when you play Ole Miss, unless you really want to call a road game at South Carolina. But Dylan Stewart for South Carolina looks like an absolute beast.
Yes, he does.
Defensive line. Problem is,
no way he's a
South Carolina is still South Carolina, and they barely beat Old Dominion.
Hey, but I can't talk any trash. You know what they have that Clemson doesn't have? They have 2 things that Clemson don't have. They have
a win and Dylan Stewart.
Nope. The other but a touchdown. They have 2 touchdowns. We have 0.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say anything.
The other game I want to talk about, speaking of Brian Kelley, Notre Dame pulls out a win against A&M. Connor Wegman did not look good, and he took accountability for his team. Didn't have his coach throw him under the bus, but he took the accountability. I thought we would see a different Connor Wegman. He looked really good in limited opportunity. Notre Dame has a really good defense. You have to give credit to that defense. This is a little bit of both of Wegman could have played better, but also Notre Dame's got an incredible defense. And Notre Dame is looking like they're going to be a playoff team because they have a pretty easy schedule. And now that you've got a win over A&M, you can't quite call it a signature win, but you can call that a strong enough win because A&M is going to be in a bowl game.
Right. Well, Jake, does this say more about A&M? This is the question that I had of this. Does this say more about A&M or more about Notre Dame?
It's a good question. I wasn't super impressed with Notre Dame's offense. We've talked about it. I'm not super high on Riley Leonard. I think Leonard is similar to like the coming through the portal of the Will Howards. I don't think Riley Leonard is automatically going to be, a first-round pick. I don't think Riley Leonard is going to be an NFL quarterback. I think he's going to be a good college quarterback. Same thing with Will Howard. I think they're good college quarterbacks. They probably won't do much at the next level. Are they the right fit for their system? That's the big question is, can they do that? Luckily for Notre Dame, they don't have a very difficult schedule. They should be able to walk through this for the most part and avoid scathing too many losses.
Yeah,
but A&M's also in their first year with Mike Elko. I think that there's a chance for this team to improve a lot. I think it's a little bit of both. Marcus Freeman's in his 3rd year. He needed that win. Marcus Freeman needed that win. If Marcus Freeman lost that game, you would have started to hear Notre Dame fans whispering, like, maybe we need to look around for a different guy.
Well, and Notre Dame is exactly who we thought they were going to be, Jake. I mean, coming into this season, when we previewed them, we thought their offense was going to be lethargic. We thought their offense was going to struggle, and we thought the defense would be great. And what did we get on Saturday? We got all those things. Texas A&M was not who we thought they were going to be. They looked decent on defense. They did their part. Offense was just putrid. I mean, just puke level bad. And again, I'm saying that as a Clemson fan after watching that performance. But I expected more. I really expected more. And is Connor Wegman still injured? Is he still rusty? I don't know. But that was not the Texas A&M that I expected to show up in College Station. So they're at home. I was disappointed in what we got out of them. I was expecting Texas A&M to potentially, ruffle some feathers and ruin some people's seasons this year. I didn't think they were going to make the playoff by any means this year, or but I thought they would at least be able to beat a Notre Dame. I thought they'd be able to beat some of these mid to high tier, above average teams. They're not beating Alabama.
These 2 quarterbacks combined for 258 yards and 30 completions.
Yeah, that's awful.
Wegman averaged 3.3 yards per attempt. Leonard averaged 5.3 yards per attempt. The defenses are good. Now, I don't think that they were this good. I think Wegman either is not living up to the standards that we thought he was going to be. I think Notre Dame has a really good defense. They've got great cornerbacks. Yeah. Leonard, when I looked at these box scores, I was hoping for a little bit higher than that if he was going to prove me wrong. Didn't really feel like I got proven wrong much because, 5.3 yards per attempt, no passes longer than 20 yards. Like they didn't push anything downfield that was completed. Like it just, there's more to be desired. Now, luckily for Notre Dame, their next few games, they play Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami, Ohio before they get Louisville at home. Stanford, Georgia Tech could be a sneaky game, but they get Georgia Tech, I believe, in Atlanta. Florida State no longer looks even bit like a team. And then they end the season with USC. Like they should really be at least 10-2, if not 11-1, maybe even 12-0. So we'll see how this all goes. And speaking of Florida State.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Wow. I did not stay up to watch this whole game because I saw the way it was trending, and I drove 12 hours yesterday. So I had no interest in staying up until 11 o'clock to watch this, two idiots fighting between Boston College, who may not make a bowl game, and now Florida State, who I don't think is going to make a bowl game. Oh boy. What the heck?
Let's give Boston College their flowers. Castellanos looked great.
Yeah.
He I mean, what a playmaker. And the running back who was a transfer from Florida State, he had a pretty good game. Ward was his last name. I'm forgetting his first name.
Trayshawn Ward, he was at Florida State. He was at Kansas State last year, actually.
Yeah.
And opted to transfer to Boston College this year.
So, and then Bill O'Brien, they made a great point.
Hey, that's a former Ohio State offensive coordinator.
That's right.
Get that right.
I forgot to say that. The Broncos made a great point last night. So the offense coordinator and Bill O'Brien both have extensive experience with the headset and being able to communicate with the quarterback on the field. So they didn't have the growing pains that a lot of these other college coaches are going to have. But the easiest thing to do right now is to just dunk on DJU, right? Everybody's making memes, everybody's bashing them, this and that. So I'm not going to go there. I think the internet has done a good enough job of talking about who DJU is. I've seen who he is. I'm not going to add to it. What I am going to dunk on, Jake, is the line of scrimmage, both the offensive line and the defensive line. So Florida State's calling card this year was like, hey, we don't care what DJU does. We're going to run the freaking football. Jake, in 2 games this year, they have ran for 119 yards combined.
I don't think they're running the football very well.
No, they are not. They are running terribly. That offensive line is garbage. That was supposed to be the strength of their team, and it is absolutely terrible. They ran for 98 yards against Georgia Tech. We talked about this last week. And 57 of that came on the first drive. 41 came out after that. And then 21 total yards against Boston College. So, okay, well, at least our defense is going to be good, right? Florida State's going to have an elite defense. That's what everybody's saying. Oh, they're going to be great. That defense will keep them in games. Jake, against Georgia Tech, they gave up 190 yards rushing. And against Boston College, they gave up 263 yards rushing. They're getting their freaking teeth pushed in by mid-tier ACC teams. And that's not a knock against Georgia Tech and Boston College. Maybe it is a little bit, but compared to what Florida State was supposed to be, they were mid-tier. You were the number 10 team in the freaking country, and you're just getting boat raced at the offensive line and the defensive line. That's your calling card. That's where you're supposed to dominate these teams. You're supposed to be bigger, faster, stronger. You are any of those things. I was not impressed with anybody on Florida State's defense in the first 2 games. Anybody, not one person. And you go on the offensive side of the ball, the freaking tight end, Morgan, doesn't matter what his name is. He's going to be working in finance next year. He can't catch the freaking football. DJU can't. The times he does actually get it to him, And then where are the running backs? Where are these freaking running backs? I mean, it's a mess. It's a freaking mess down in Tallahassee, Jake.
Yeah, I thought Roydell Williams would be a lot better than what it is. I don't know if that's a play calling. I don't know if that's a scheme. I don't know if it's execution. There's a lot that's going on, and Florida State does not have a lot of time to figure it out either.
No.
Because this week they host Memphis, Mike Norvell's former team, and they are not a team that you can take lightly. Seth Hannigan is their quarterback and has been there for like 6 years. I pulled up his stats, and this guy has thrown for over 3,000 yards in 21, 22, and 23, has like 80 total touchdowns, and was 22 of 30 against whatever bum school they played last week, like South Alabama or North Alabama or Eastern Alabama or something. That Memphis is going to be coming in there looking for blood. Memphis has been talked about a team as a sleeper to make the college football playoff from the group of 5. So this is not a team that you can mess around with and try to figure out your answers, because Memphis is going to be coming in there with a really good chance to win this game.
This is not a get-right game.
No. And the week after that, they get Cal, who, I mean, Cal went 1-0.
Cal's going to run the football. Cal's going to run the football.
So they don't have a chance anytime soon. They get SMU, then Clemson, then Duke, then Miami, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Charleston Southern, and Florida. Like 2 of their 3 non-conference games are on the back end of the schedule. It's not like most other teams where they get the tune-up games right out the chute.
Right.
So Memphis, don't be surprised when this game is close. I don't know what the spread for this game is, but whatever it is, I would take Memphis.
Yeah, I didn't think Florida State was going to be a playoff team this year. I wasn't that high on them. I had them at 9-3. I didn't think they were going to be this bad.
Memphis is favored by a point, or Memphis is a 1.5 dog. Florida State is favored by 1.5 points.
So it's a pick 'em. It's a pick 'em.
I mean, I'm going to put this right out. Memphis wins this game. I'm going to say that. Memphis wins this game. It's a 1.5. It's a pick 'em. Yeah. I'm going to take my 50-50 shot and say Florida State has 2 options right now. You can either turn it around and you can rally together and you can come back out here and prove that everybody is wrong about you and dominate Memphis, or you lay down and call it a season after 3 weeks.
We're going to find out about that culture this week for sure.
We are absolutely going to. Heading into this week, we have one major game, a couple other good games, but one major game. Texas and Michigan.
Yeah,
the Longhorns will travel. Who was supposed to be the second one?
It's supposed to be Tennessee, NC State, but NC State robbed us.
Yeah, NC State doesn't look as good. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Yeah. But Quinn Ewers and company will travel up to Ann Arbor. Fun fact, Quinn Ewers still calls Michigan that team up north from his 4 weeks that he was at Ohio State, 3 years ago. Kind of funny. Rivalries never die. Michigan shockingly started Davis Warren over Alex Orgi, although Alex Orgi threw the first touchdown pass of the year because he came in on a gadget play and threw a touchdown. It was like 1 of 1 while Davis Warren was like out there throwing ducks. I don't understand what is going on with Michigan right now. They did not look good on offense this past week. Donovan Edwards, Mr. Cover, went 10 carries for 27 yards against Fresno State. Now, Fresno State is a good team. Like, this is not, the casual team that you play, but Fresno State is usually an 8, 9, 10 win team, but they struggled mightily with Fresno.
Fresno State's a team that could beat a middle tier Power 4 team. Michigan was touted as a playoff team. I mean, they should have had their way with Fresno State. Like,
it was the third quarter, or it was the fourth quarter, and it was 16-10 in favor of Michigan. Michigan wins by 20, but the game is not as close as that shows because Michigan scored a touchdown. Fresno was driving the field, and with 4 minutes left, they threw an interception. Will Johnson returns it for a touchdown, makes it 30-10. It was 23-10. Fresno State was at the 10-yard line and had a chance to make it a one-score game again. Now, they would have needed some help and, yada, yada, yada. But this game was way closer than that score depicts. This was a one-score game.
Absolutely.
And looking at this weekend, the spread's 7.5. Now, granted, it's in Ann Arbor. What do you think Michigan needs to change in order to be able to be competitive with Texas this weekend?
Well, they need to establish an identity, and they need to walk in that offensive line room and slap the hell out of all of them to wake them up. That's supposed to, again, we talk about calling cards. That's supposed to be Michigan's bread and butter is that offensive line. I think Alex Orgi takes over, and I think they change their identity to a team that can pass the ball to the team that's just going to run the ball 90% of the time. I mean, I'm being a little hyperbolic. Maybe it's more like 75%, but I think we're going to see the ball ran a lot in this game. And I think that's why the spread is so close, because I don't think a lot of people are high on Texas's defense this year, and I know I'm surely one of them. That's not very high. And So if Michigan wants to stand a chance in this game, they have to be able to establish the line of scrimmage. They have to be able to run the football. If they run the football, you can control time of possession, they can stay in this game. But I don't think that happens. I think because they're able to get pushed around so easy by Fresno State. Again, nothing against Fresno State, but Fresno State's not recruiting guys like Michigan does. They don't have the big heavies, big hog mollies like Michigan does. So if they're able to get pushed around against Fresno State, Texas is recruiting big time too, and they're bringing in guys that can freaking play. So I think Texas whoops up on them, Jake. I think this is at least a 14-point game.
The funny part is, so this over/under set at 42. Michigan's offense versus Texas defense is like two teddy bears fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Texas's offense versus Michigan's defense is like two sledgehammers going at it.
Exactly. So that's going to be a fun match. Like if you want to flip the channel, just flip it when Michigan's on offense.
Especially if Davis Warren is starting on at quarterback, because my God, like that is not going to be exciting. Nobody wants to watch Davis Warren be quarterback. Michigan fans were calling for Davis Warren to be benched. It was like the second quarter. Like they did not want anything to do with Davis Warren after he threw an interception, because that was a bad interception. He threw it into triple coverage and the safety just cut the route when it was deep. It was a deep ball thrown down into three guys, and the Fresno State guy just jumped the coverage, and it wasn't even close. It was a really bad interception. It felt incredibly forced, and Michigan cannot have these costly mistakes. Texas is not a great defense. They have better athletes on defense than Fresno State does, so those kind of plays will continue to get made. I don't know what's up with Donovan Edwards. I have no idea. He showed out in the national championship game, but it feels like he has had these moments over the last couple of years when he's played where you think, where is Donovan Edwards? Like, this is the year Donovan Edwards was supposed to take that step. He could have went pro. He could have probably been a second-round pick, maybe a third-round pick. And he comes out and absolutely lays an egg. I don't know if it's the blocking. I don't know if he is just not feeling it, like if there's something else going on. But Khalil Mullins was the better running back on Saturday. And Michigan needs Donovan Edwards to step up in this game, or they're not going to have a chance.
It's the college football 25 cover curse. It's just taking up what Madden did.
Hey, we got two of the guys going against each other this weekend. Who's going
right.
to – Travis Hunter
breaks the curse?
Victim to the curse. Travis Hunter looked like a superstar.
Yeah, he looked out of this world.
So I think for Texas, you hit the nail on the head. Texas's offense needs to find success. Michigan's defense looked good, not great against Mikey Keene. I'll be interested to see how they adjust when they play Texas, because first game, you got new guys out there. Mikey Keene throws for 235 yards. Now, he did throw 2 picks, and the running game for Fresno State was 22 rushes for 9 yards. They couldn't even move forward.
Yeah.
The running backs averaged like 2 yards carry for the most part. Nobody ever even had a rush over 10 yards. So the rush defense is still there. But Quinn Ewers, all the pressure is going to fall on him. It's going to be his job to find success. And Davis Warren, Alex Orgi just had to find a way to not
go 3-and-out,
be incompetent.
I feel like 42 is way too many points. I mean, what is Vegas thinking? I think everyone's going to take the under on this.
It feels like a safe under. Like, this feels like a 20 to 10 game, honestly. Like maybe 21, maybe like 24 to 14. Like, I don't see a lot of touchdowns being scored in this game.
Points will be at a premium.
Speaking of premium, I thought NC State was going to be a great team this year. They struggled against Western Carolina. Now, a lot of teams struggled this past weekend. There were a lot of teams that struggled who came out on top. Tennessee was not one of them. Now, they played UT Chattanooga, but NC State played an FCS team too, and they struggled, and they had to go punch for punch with Western Carolina. What do you make of NC State?
Everything that could have gone wrong for NC State went wrong. They fumbled the ball, I think, 4 times. I think Grayson McCall threw a pick. Grayson McCall did not look very accurate. The offense just looked very clunky if they weren't throwing the ball to Casey Concepcion, which he looked phenomenal again. So what went wrong? I was also very disappointed in that defense. I feel like NC State usually has a very good defensive line. I mean, you you can always count on them putting out 4 guys who can just freaking play a defensive line. And I thought Western Carolina kind of took advantage of that. I mean, I will say, the quarterback for Western Carolina, no disrespect to him, but I do not remember his name.
Cole Gonzalez.
There we go. Cole Gonzalez. Thank you, Jake. That's why we keep you around. Phenomenal runner, gritty athlete, just a really, really tough guy. And he made him pay. Like, he would escape the pocket, they'd miss a tackle, and he'd take off. And then when he had the opportunity to complete a pass, he did it. So I was very impressed with him. But I want to instead of taking away from them, I do want to attack NC State's defense more than I praise Western Carolina's production, because I had them making the playoff, Jake. I really thought they were going to be a playoff team. I thought they were going to lose 1 or 2 games this year. I thought they could have beaten Tennessee. And now, like, coming into this game, I think 7.5 points is not enough. I think NC State is going to get boat raced. I think this is going to get very, very ugly.
This game was way closer than the score depicts as well. NC State won 38-21. NC State was losing until the fourth quarter. Now, they had the ball deep. They had the ball in Western Carolina territory, but it was the 35-yard line. And they were down, or my bad, they were up 24-21. I was reading that. No, never mind. They were up. They were down 21-17. I read that wrong. They were down 21-17, scored to make it 24-21, 15 seconds into the fourth quarter. Then they go down, they score again. Western Carolina misses a field goal. They go down, they score again. Finally they got it going at the end. But 3 quarters in, Western Carolina was winning, and that's not a good start. And I want to give NC State a little bit benefit of the doubt. There are a lot of teams that struggled in week 1, inferior opponents. We give Colorado a lot of crap for barely beating North Dakota State. Now, I know North Dakota State is very good, but then, there are plenty of other teams that, struggle, and we kind of gloss over it. This doesn't mean NC State can't still have a good season.
Right.
They could still win this game. They've got the talent to. Tennessee, UT Chattanooga, I have no idea how good they are. They could be a 2-10 team. Western Carolina could be a 10-2 team at the end of the year.
Yeah. The difference is, though, Tennessee handled business. They did what they were supposed to do. And Michigan didn't do that. Oregon, who we'll probably talk about later, didn't do that. And who were we just talking about? NC State did not do that. Duke did not do that. A lot of teams that were playing inferior opponents just did not do what they were supposed to do. Looked awful.
Now, they did come out with a win. That's the main thing, is making sure that you get the win. You get the win. That's the important thing. But you would much rather not be going into the fourth quarter trailing, or, be sitting on pins and needles and trying to figure it out. Luckily for them, they did win, and now we get a matchup this weekend. And Nico is going to play an NC State team. Now, he played well against Iowa last year in the bowl game. It's his team, obviously, this year. I'm incredibly interested to see how he handles NC State, because if they win, they're going to be a perennial college football playoff contender. They're already in the discussion, but then they just get blasted into the discussion, especially with 12 teams.
Yeah. And I think they will be. I think Nico Iamaleava looked crisp. He made the correct reads this weekend. He made really good throws. He was accurate with the football. Again, you're playing an inferior opponent, but you're doing the little things correctly. And if you can't do the little things, I like Clemson, you will struggle no matter who you play with. And if you're playing against Georgia, you lose by 31. And if you're playing against Western Carolina, you're in a freaking, fist fight until the fourth quarter. So you have to do the little things right. And if Tennessee is already doing the little things right, and NC State's still struggling to figure out who they are and what they're going to do, you can't do that. You're not going to be able to do that. Now, it's more of a home game for NC State. You're in Charlotte. But
it's not like Tennessee is that far away, though.
That's true. And the Tennessee faithful are very, very, very passionate, and will show up in groves. So I think it's going to be a 50-50 crowd. We're going to find out what Grayson McCall's made of. I mean, there's going to be no more conversation. And I'm after last week. I'm not very pleased and not very hopeful for the Wolfpack.
Speaking of Oregon, who you talked about, struggled with Idaho. This is a team that was FBS and then moved down to FCS. Idaho is not a good team. They're not going to win the FCS national championship. And Oregon, who was hyped up as this incredible team, struggled to put Idaho away. Idaho was in this game the whole way. Idaho had a chance to stop Oregon when they were only up 3 on a 4th and 7 play before their defensive end jumped off sides trying to time the snap. And then Oregon scores, wins the game 24-14. One of the ugliest games of the weekend. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, you're playing a team that you're supposed to beat and you struggle. And you know what the theme is? No, it's not the theme because never mind. Michigan breaks that, but transfer quarterbacks. Florida State, transfer quarterback. Oregon, transfer quarterback. NC State, transfer quarterback. It's really tough to put someone in there year one and have them go out there and mess with their teammates and to be able to dominate. It's not going to be common. We're not going to get superb. We're not going to get Jaden Daniels every single year. We're not going to get Joe Burrow every single year.
And it took those guys 2 years
correct
to win their Heisman. It's not like they came in and won the Heisman immediately. I mean, you look at guys like Lincoln Riley who have brought guys over and won Heismans, but that's a little bit different situation. And also a lot of those guys sat before they won a Heisman too.
Right. So, yeah. And then if you look at the stat sheet, you're like, wow, Dylan Graybear had a great game. He threw for 380 yards. He completed 84% of his passes.
I'd love to see what the average distance in the air he was, because he was throwing a lot of dump downs and swing passes, and it wasn't like he was pushing the ball downfield constantly. Yeah, he was 41 of 49 for 380 yards. He should never have thrown 48 passes against Idaho. They should have put this game away a long time ago.
Right.
It's not like Idaho was pushing the ball down on them. Their defense played strong enough as they should. But the concern for me was Oregon's rushing attack. Jordan James played well. Noah Whittingham couldn't get out of, past the line of scrimmage for the most part. Dylan Gabriel didn't run the ball at all. They were 37 rushes for 107 yards, a 2.9 yard per carry. You take away, the quarterbacks there, they're probably sitting around like a 4 yard per carry. I'd have to do the exact math here. You're at 31 and like for 130, so right around 4 yards a carry. It's not the yards per carry I would like to see against Idaho. If I'm Oregon, I want my offensive line to be violent. I want them to push them off the line of scrimmage. I want to be averaging 5-6 yards a carry if I'm going against Idaho. So the receivers
yards per attempt was 7.8. Sorry to cut you off, but
but I'd be curious to see what the average in the air was, because 7.8 is pretty low already. So how far was he throwing the ball each time? How much in the air was he throwing screen passes and swing passes? We saw that with DJU the first week, where his average yard per attempt through the air was like 0.1 or negative 0.1. He was all behind the line of scrimmage. So how far is he throwing the ball? What's going to happen? What needs to change? Boise State's obviously more talented than Idaho. Boise State has an elite running back. Is it fair to say that?
I think after 6 touchdowns, you can say that.
I mean,
he's played 6 games though, right? That's why he has 6 touchdowns. He's played 6 games.
Yeah. He averaged 13.4 yards per carry on 20 rushing attempts and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's
absolute insane. Ashton Genty, is that how you say his last name? Genty was insane. And then Sire Gaines, which is also an
wonderful name.
Awesome name. Also ran 12 times for 110 yards and 9.2 yards per carry and a touchdown. The rushing attack for Boise State was 371 yards and 7 touchdowns. They averaged 10.6 yards per carry. They were getting a first down every time they ran the ball. Who needs a quarterback if you're just going to run it for 400 yards? Now, granted, it was Georgia Southern, and Georgia Southern moved the ball pretty easily on Boise State as well.
Georgia Southern's a good team. They're a good group of 5 team. I mean, they're gonna make some noise this year. I think they're in the Sun Belt, right?
I believe so. I recognize a couple of these names from Power 5, so it's not like I'm looking at them and going, "Wow, like these guys have not good. They've never played." You know, the group of 5 did a good job of filling in the roster in here.
Yeah.
Boise State and Oregon have met 3 times, and Boise State has won all 3 of them.
That's insane. That is an insane stat.
It is an absolutely insane stat. And this game, I mean, Oregon can't sleep on them. Oregon cannot sleep on Boise State, or else you never know what's going to happen. And Boise State might walk into your house and take the victory from you. And that's going to put a major, major wrinkle in their season.
Yeah, that is. You want to talk about playoff hopes getting destroyed after 2 weeks? That would be, again, Boise State is no slouch, but I think that just kills your confidence, right? When Oregon's supposed to, like, everybody wants them. They're the favorite. A lot of people are favoring them to win the national championship. A lot of people are favoring Dylan Gabriel to win the Heisman Trophy. So,
and losing to a group of 5 team in the second week is not going to help that case.
No, absolutely not.
I think Dylan Gabriel is going to need to be more aggressive. He didn't run the ball at all. He didn't run the ball once. And I think he's going to need to be more mobile. I think they need to push the ball downfield. Evan Stewart had 3 catches for 15 yards. I mean, he was he's a talented 5-star guy coming in. Didn't do anything. Jordan James was the highlight, going for 15 carries, 95 yards. Played all 4 quarters. You would like to see a little bit more. This was a very disappointing game for me from Oregon. Idaho handled their business, did a good job. The offense just was not strong enough to compete. They tried. They did it the best they could, but ultimately, it wasn't enough.
And if they ran 80 plays, 70 of them were trick plays. I mean, Idaho was pulling out all the works.
Yes. One of the concerning things to me is that Idaho had 3 sacks. Idaho was able to sack them 3 times, had 6 tackles for loss. This Oregon offensive line needs to be more dominant. They cannot be allowing a team like Idaho, when they have their starters in, allow 3 sacks.
I agree. And Boise State is not a team that you can struggle like that with. Yeah.
So when we get some Big Ten after dark this week, because, Oregon is a Big Ten team now, make sure you watch it. It's on Peacock because, why would anybody want to watch this game? It's just one of the better games this weekend. If you want to watch it on Peacock. I have Peacock, so I'm fine.
I've got it, but I'm still angry.
All right, you ready to take your college football to the next level? Check out Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest way to draft your perfect team, make pick'em selections for each of the biggest games. We've been using Underdog. It's our 2nd season now. It's a game changer, absolute game changer. If you mix and match some picks, we actually would have done well last week, but Mitchell Evans decided that he was hurt, and we didn't know that he was hurt. Didn't help us. Anyways, sign up today, promo code WALK-ON, claim your first pick and your first time deposit up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. You must be 18 or older to play, and terms may apply. Mitchell Evans screwed me last week. I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that at all. I got to look up my other one. I don't remember if I would have hit my other one or not.
Ches Malusi, and you did.
I did. If you took Ches Malusi, and if you took Ches Malusi higher than his 68 yards or something like that, and you took Dylan Raiola higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns, you would have hit. Well, like we said last week, you mix and match. But if you had done Omari and Hampton higher than 1 touchdown and Mitchell Evans higher than 26.5 receiving yards, you would have missed both of them. So that's why you got to mix and match. Pick which one you like, pick one you don't. You got a good chance of hitting with if you mix and match with ours. I got 2 that I like this week, except one is an absolute sicko move, and I'm so excited for it. First, I got Jackson Arnold higher than 2.5 touchdowns. He played good against Temple. Shout out Temple. Temple Talk. We always got to include Temple Talk in here. Houston was god awful last week. They lost 27-7 to UNLV. I don't think there's a way that Jackson Arnold doesn't throw for at least 3 touchdowns this week. I think they just run it up on Houston early in the game, get him out by halftime. If he plays the second half, he doesn't have 3 touchdowns by then. It's not going to be looking good, but I think he gets it in the first half. And then Drew Stevens. You might be asking, who is Drew Stevens? Well, Drew Stevens is the kicker for Iowa.
This is disgusting.
We are going to go higher than 5.5 kicking points for him because I think Iowa kicks 2 field goals this weekend.
So
I don't think
Jake,
they score 3 touchdowns. I think they kick 2 field goals.
Let me get this straight. You're putting money on a team that played Temple and a kicker.
Yes, I am. And I love the Drew Stevens one. Like I'm willing to like die on the hill for that one. Like I feel really good about Drew Stevens kicking 2 field goals. I
Things
feel
you will never
really,
hear
really good about
anywhere
Drew
else
Stevens kicking 2 field goals. And they scored a bunch of points against, without the problem. The problem is Kirk Ferentz is back on the sidelines. They scored 40 points without him. This week, Kirk Ferentz is back on the sidelines.
He's going to nip that in the bud real quick.
That's why he's going to stop at the 25 and make his kickers score more points.
Yep.
Don't be surprised if he ends up with 9 points, maybe even 10.
Hey, I got a wrinkle for you, Iowa. This will help your offense. You know how to really catch a team off guard?
Kick the ball on first down when you get to the 30-yard line.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Do it.
I love it. All right, Jake. I think I'm going more. You're going with the moped picks. They're fun to ride, but no one wants to see you do it. I'm going with the sexy picks. I'm really getting after it. I've got Dylan Raiola. They're playing Colorado. I have him throwing for higher than 237.5 passing yards. Colorado played against North Dakota State, and if anybody knows anything about North Dakota State, that their calling card is the calling card's been the word of the podcast. If you have that on your bingo card, you've already won the game. Colorado gave up 292 passing yards to a run first team. That's not good. You know what Nebraska can do a lot better than North Dakota State? They can throw the ball. So I think that's easy for them to throw for 238 yards. I think that should happen. So I'm feeling pretty confident in that one. And then I'm going to stand on business. NC State was one of my favorite teams coming out of the ACC, besides Clemson, obviously. And they hurt me. They hurt me pretty good last week, Jake. They hit me right here. Right in Jesus' stiff arm. Right in Jesus' stiff arm.
Right in the stiff arm.
Right in the stiff arm. I'm going Nico Iamaleava to go for to pass for higher than 253.5 passing yards. And the reason for that is, like we said, they played lesser talent. They played the Western Carolina Catamounts. Catamount Nation, shout out. And they gave up 240 passing yards. So I think a better passer with better weapons could really take advantage of that defense. So, again, you want to get on the moped? Go with Jake. You want to be in the club, going to the club on a Tuesday night? Come with me.
You don't get in moped accidents. You're just safe on the moped.
That's true. You are safe. And you have a great time. Have you ever had a bad time on a moped? You have not.
I've never been on a moped.
But it's embarrassing if you had a little ball helmet on, you just rock it around. If you're like me and I'm on a moped with one of my offensive line buddies in college, and we're both 300 plus pounds, and literally there's sparks coming out the back. Shout out to Taylor Hearn, Hoggy. That's a little embarrassing too. But it's not embarrassing being in the club on a Tuesday night.
It's also not embarrassing winning money. I will just.
That's true. That's true. And you can win money using Underdog Fantasy. You like that right there?
That's cool. Promo code walk on.
How do you spell that, Jake?
WALKON.
Ooh, that sounds like a radio. That sounds like a radio broadcast.
Link in bio.
WALKON.
Link in bio.
Lincoln Park.
All right, we got our walk on weekly 10 recap of last week. I got 6 wins. William only got 4.
4?
Did you get 5? I had you at 4.
Hold on. Let's go through them. I had 5. I thought I was 5 and 5.
Okay, so Colorado and North Dakota State. I had Colorado.
I had North Dakota State. There's one for me.
We both took North Carolina, who won.
North Carolina won.
They covered by half a point.
Yep.
TCU and Stanford. We both took Stanford, and Stanford covered.
Yep. It's 3 for Daddy.
We both took Virginia Tech to cover, and they got absolutely obliterated.
Yeah. They pooped on us.
I took Hawaii.
Yep.
And Hawaii covered, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
Hawaii covered. It's like what?
So I'm 4-1 there. You took Penn State. You got one there. Where do you get
USC?
Where is you got 4 fingers up and you only got 3 wins so far.
North Dakota State. UNC.
North Dakota State didn't cover.
Yeah, they did. There was a 9.5.
I thought they won. I thought Colorado won by 11.
No, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. What was the score?
Hold on here, folks. Old Keith Jackson right there. Hold on, folks.
We got beer on the line. I gotta challenge these.
Colorado. Oh, you're right. They won by 5. Okay.
5 and 5.
For some reason, I had that different in my head.
That's how you do it, folks. Make them recount the ballots.
So we both had 5. So I'm still up
Jake,
1.
We didn't make you money. We didn't lose your money. We didn't make you money. We didn't lose your money.
All right. Week 2, walk on weekly 10 here.
And you know what, Jake? We have the week 1 jitters. You give all these people a break on week 1. Give us a break. We usually get 10-0.
5 and 5. 5 and 5. All right. Week 2 here. Some interesting games for sure. All of these except 1, 2 are a single-digit spread. And most include a ranked team. First one is probably the ugliest game out of all of them is Duke versus Northwestern. Like 2.5 spread for Northwestern. I don't know what to say about this game other than it's going to be played at Northwestern's weird stadium with 15,000 people.
Yeah, so it's going to be rocking. Duke's used to playing in stadiums like that. Basketball. I'm picking Duke to cover. So plus 2.5, and that's solely because I like Malik Murphy more than I like Mike Wright for Northwestern, the quarterback for Northwestern.
Northwestern won 13-6 over Miami, Ohio. I don't have confidence in them winning multiple games. I really think Northwestern is going to be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten this year. Give me Duke to win this game, like you said. Game 2, Georgia Tech plays Syracuse. Georgia Tech's actually ranked 23rd in the country now and is favored by 2.5 points on the road at Syracuse.
I like Fran Brown. I like Honda McCord. I think the Syracuse team could beat Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech might be riding a little too high right now. The one thing that I think Georgia Tech has an edge on is that they already have that Brent Key culture instilled in them. So this is Fran Brown's first year. They have that transfer quarterback. I'm really going back and forth on this one, but I think I have to go with Syracuse. I think Syracuse can beat them.
I am going to go with Georgia Tech here to win. I think Georgia Tech this will be their 3rd game already because they played that week 0 game. Their rushing attack has been strong. Syracuse didn't look great. Kyle McCord made a couple good passes. The defense was not incredible by any means last week. Syracuse gave up 22 points to Ohio, and this is not the Curtis Rourke Ohio. Parker Navarro, who also just sounds like a MAC quarterback, actually. And Ohio ran for 255 yards.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
On Syracuse. And Georgia Tech is going to try to run the ball down their throat as well. So I'm going to take Georgia Tech to cover the spread by at least 3 points. 3rd game here, we got Kansas State playing Tulane. Kansas State's going on the road. They're going down to New Orleans and playing Tulane. They are a 9.5 point favorite.
Going to Nolans. I will say last week, after your explanation of your pick for North Dakota State and Colorado, I really wanted to change, but I didn't. After your explanation of Georgia Tech, Syracuse, I really want to change, but I'm not going to. So hopefully that rides with me. I'm going Kansas State. I really like Avery Johnson. I really like this team. I think they can smoke Tulane. I mean, I don't know. I know it's in Tulane. I know Tulane's usually pretty good, but I think Kansas State's going to be great. I think Kansas State's a playoff caliber team to me, so they're going to prove it.
Yeah, Tulane won their first game 52-0 over Southeast Louisiana, who doesn't even sound like a real school.
Hey, that's where Ed Orgeron went, I'm pretty sure.
So I'm with you. Kansas State is too good. If they can't win this game by 10 points, I'm not sure they're going to be fully deserving of a playoff spot. They got to handle business, and I don't care if it's on the road at Tulane. It's not like you're walking into College Station. It's going to be a super hostile environment. Go in, handle your business.
Go Wildcats. Yep.
Go in, handle your business. Game 3 here, we got Arkansas versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 7.5-point favorite against Arkansas.
Yeah, and I think they cover on that. I think Arkansas their offense looked good against Arkansas Pine Bluff, but they played Arkansas Pine Bluff. They should have looked good against them. But I think Ollie Gordon is finally sobered up, and he's going to run very well against this Arkansas defense. And I've got Arkansas winning this one. Or, excuse me, Oklahoma State winning and covering.
Yeah, I think this one, if there's a lock of the week, it feels like this one to me because Oklahoma State last year had some brutal letdown games. It wouldn't shock me if this becomes a brutal letdown game and all of a sudden they lose out of nowhere. I think Sam Pittman is almost ready to mail it in. We know that he's on the hot seat. I don't know how long he lasts. I think this could be the start of the downfall. I'm not sold on Arkansas any bit, and I like Oklahoma State. I really struggled against South Dakota State. The South Dakota State is probably the best FCS team and could beat a lot of FBS teams. So I don't take them struggling against South Dakota State too seriously. I think they beat Arkansas. I think South Dakota State could have beat Arkansas, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, they probably could have. Shout out to Rabbit Hole on Twitter, by the way. Great follow for South Dakota State content.
Fourth game of our walk-on weekly 10. We got Baylor traveling to number 11 Utah. The Utes are 14.5-point favorites.
What time is that game?
That's a great question. Let me pull that up. I feel like it's
if it's in that game, I'm switching this.
It is. Why can't I even find it? Am I looking at the right week? Well, it would help if I'm looking at the ACC. I was looking at the ACC. That's why.
All Coast Conference is easy to mess up.
This game is at 3:30 in Utah.
It'll end going into the nighttime.
So it's 1:30 there.
Oh, yeah. I think this one. I like Deron Finn. 14.5 is a lot of points. I like Deron Finn. Jake. I kind of want to be
Daquan
Finn. I like Deron too. You haven't heard of him yet, but Daquan Finn I like him more than Deron Finn. My brain tells me to go Utah, and my heart tells me to go Baylor.
Which one are you going to go with?
My mind is telling me no.
But my body.
There we go. My body is telling me Baylor. I'm going Baylor.
Well, you took mine too. I think Baylor covers the spread. I think 14.5 is just too much. Utah doesn't always play the most exciting brand of football. I know Cam Rising is back. I don't think that this game is going to be like a blowout. I think Baylor can go maybe not shot for shot with them, but this over-under's at 54.5. Wouldn't shock me if Baylor gets into the 20s in points wise. I think Daquan Finn can absolutely, hit on some of those shots. He can be exciting. He can score. Utah played Southern Utah, and Baylor played Tarleton State. Like, neither of them played anybody. Daquan Finn did throw 2 interceptions. Now, without seeing the plays, I don't know if they were good, bad, somewhere in between. So that can be a little concerning, but I think 14 is too much. I think Baylor holds in there and makes it close.
How'd Deron Finn play? How did he do?
Ooh, I did not check the stats for him.
Yeah, DeRonald. That's what it's government.
Iowa State, a little rivalry game in here. We got Iowa at home is a 2.5-point favorite over the Cyclones.
Listen, I love Iowa. And I love Iowa State. I literally love both those teams. I love watching them play football. I love a good nasty punt. I love a good upset against Oklahoma at the end of September. And that's just what these two teams do great. Iowa State was my dark horse, my walk-on team of the year for the Big 12, and I'm staying with that. I'm picking Iowa State to win this game.
I'm going to go the opposite here because I got my kicker. I got to rely on my kicker here. We got to rely on
Drew Stevens, baby.
We got to rely on Drew Stevens. Got to rely on him to get his 6 points.
What a kicker name! Drew Stevens is going to teach science for 7th grade science in Oklahoma after he's done at Iowa.
and he's going to frame his game-winning kick where they
against
win
Iowa State
by 3 points over Iowa State. I think this is incredibly low scoring. I'm guessing the over-under for this game is somewhere between sick and psychotic because it's going to be incredibly low scoring. I cannot imagine it's 35.5. I'm a sicko. Take the under in this. Take the under in this. It's going to be a close game. I think this is like a 13-10 game. I think it's low scoring. I don't think either of them are going to be able to run away with this. It's a rivalry game. It's going to be close. Every time these two teams play, it's low scoring. They don't score a lot of points. So Iowa tends to hit the under in these. So there's my free pick. Take the under.
There you go.
So give me Iowa. Low scoring. It's going to be like 13-10. And Drew Stevens is going to hit his higher when he makes his game-winning kick. You heard it here first.
That's right. Kansas
travels on the road to play Illinois. Kansas is a 5.5-point favorite over Illinois this week.
This is the easiest one for me. I don't get why it's so low. I'm going Kansas. I mean,
yeah,
Kansas is going to handle business against Illinois.
I don't understand this line. Illinois was viewed as being one of the worst Big Ten teams this year. They have nothing to tell me why they would be better than that right now. They beat Eastern Illinois last week. Again, we don't learn much. You don't learn much when you play an FCS team. Kansas took care of Lindenwood. I mean, Jalen Daniels plays for Kansas, so I'm taking Kansas. That's the easy part right there.
I like it.
Tennessee.
Shout out.
Tennessee, 7.5-point favorite over NC State.
Volunteers, baby. I've already talked about it. Now I got to be about it. Let's go.
I'm right there with you. I'm not sold. I think that last game is a little bit more of a foreshadowing for NC State. I think they're still going to be a good team this year, but I think there are some issues with that offense, and I'm not sold that they're going to be able to have it fixed this week. Volunteers didn't show any cracks, so give me Tennessee. Boise State is an 18.5-point dog to Oregon. Can Oregon get it figured out and run away with this? Or is Boise State going to keep it close?
So first thing before I say this, shout out to Shredder365 on Twitter. He had an amazing response. So, you talked about Boise State being 3-0 against Oregon in all-time matchups. And so I put that tweet out there. And Shredder365 had a great suggestion. He thinks that LeGarrette Blount should be the honorary captain for Boise State, and the guy who he punched should be the honorary captain for Oregon. And that would be hilarious.
I'm sold. Do it.
That's must-see TV. But all jokes aside, I've got Boise State. I love Ashton Jeanty. I really think he's going to give Oregon a lot of trouble. I think this could be a high-scoring game with how Boise State's defense struggled a little bit. And obviously Oregon's defense giving up points to Idaho. That should have never happened. So I got Boise State in this one to cover.
I want to believe Boise State covers this. The fact Boise State gave up so many points is concerning to me. I know Boise State can score. I think Oregon's defense is still very good. And I think this game is very close at halftime. I think it's 7-10 points. I think Oregon finds a way to run away with it towards the end of the game. This game being in Eugene is huge. If this was on the Smurf turf, I would feel very different about this. I also think the spread would reflect that too.
Yeah.
But I think Oregon finds a way to run away with this game late. And then our key matchup of the week. The number 3 Texas Longhorns will travel to Michigan, ranked number 10. And the Longhorns are 7.5-point favorites over Michigan.
Honestly, I was coming into this, I was pretty bullheaded on Texas by 2 touchdowns, or Texas by at least 10. But dang, the more I think about this game and the more we talk about it, I just really, I think Texas wins. I just don't know how they're going to score points. and it's going to be difficult. But I think they have enough playmakers to wear Michigan out late and to cover late. So I'm going Texas to cover and cover late in the game.
I'm taking Texas to cover, and I don't think it's particularly close, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think Michigan's defense will do all they can. Michigan's offense seriously concerned me last week. And while Texas might not have a stout defense, I think they have more talent on the defensive side than Fresno State. And I don't know how Michigan's going to score points. Consistently move the ball down the field, especially if they stick with Davis Warren. If they stick with Davis Warren, he's a statue back there, and I do not like their chances. You can only bring an Alex Orgi in for so many gadget plays before everybody knows what's going on or how it's going to run. You either have to commit to Alex Orgi or you just continue to notify everybody you're running your gadget plays.
What does that tell you about Alex Orgi, though, at practice? Like, obviously, Davis Warren beat him out. So Alex Orgi must be playing horribly at practice.
It's got to be inconsistency as well, that maybe Davis Warren is just more consistent in the pocket.
Yeah.
But Alex Orgi not being able to be named the starter when everybody thought he was going to be the starter this year.
Yeah.
Davis Warren was the third string and jumped over Alex Orgi. It's not a good look. You really would like to see that guy take the step. Quinn Ewers is a significantly better quarterback. I know he's going against Will Johnson, one of the best cornerbacks in the country. I know there's plenty of other guys on that defense that are still very good. Mason Graham is one of the best defensive tackles. Running the ball is not going to be easy for Texas. Look for them to run off tackle plays. Look for them to get guys in space. They're not going to be able to run inside zones. They're not going to be able to run, inside handoffs on Michigan's defensive tackles. They'll have to get creative. Steve Sarkisian is one of the best at coming up with creative play calls, though. So if there's a guy on offense who I would want to be figuring out how to call the game, Sarkisian's going to be up there for sure. I think Texas wins this game by at least 2 touchdowns, if I'm being honest, and I could see them running away with it even more. Maybe a hot take, but
it's warm. It's warm. You've got the stove on about 3 or 4, so it's going to burn you, but it's you're gonna be all right. You run it on just some cold water. You put some dirt on it. You're gonna be all right.
Electric or gas though? Gas. I mean, you're screwed no matter what.
That's electric. Yeah. It's boogie.
All right, that's it for another episode of the Walk on Redshirt podcast. We'll be back next week for week 3, especially when I go 10-0 this week and William goes probably like 7-3, 6-4, whatever. How many we have opposite on this?
Above 500. You're making money off us this week.
You'll win all the ones that we got together, but you'll definitely win a lot of money if you take all my picks because I'm going to go 10-0 this week. Make sure, if you're not doing so already, go join Underdog. Use promo code WALKON. You can get, match up to or get a special first pick and potentially up to $1,000 in bonus bets. Make sure to follow us on social media. You can follow William at Walk On Moose on social media. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and like and rate the podcast. Helps us out. Make sure to do that for us. We really appreciate it. With that being said, everybody enjoy your college football week. We are back in season. We're into week 2. Make sure to enjoy it. Even if the slate isn't strong, make sure to go enjoy the games. We've only got so many weeks of it. You got to take it in while you can.
That's right. Enjoy it.
We'll see everybody again next week.